Hello, parents. Hope a positive mind and meaningful time with the family is keeping you ahead of these unprecedented times. We will fight this out together and encourage one another whenever we get an opportunity. Today, I would like to introduce you to the new normal learning at VKGI. It has become the need of the hour and the need of the future based on the National Education Policy 2020. If we look at the highlights of the NEP 2020, co-curricular vocational skills, 21st century skills, including technological skills, the above cited are going to take up a lot of space in the curriculum. Teaching and learning will be more active-based, student-centric, wherein the child shares the responsibility for learning along with the teacher. It is important that as parents you are part of this paradigm shift in education. Hence, this session is designed to help you understand the new way of learning. I have tried to keep it as simple for you to understand. Yes, definitely technology has bailed us out in not allowing our students to miss one academic year, but learning continued. It is true that we have to adapt to the times, and good that we coped so well. Why do we need educational technology? Well, it is inevitable for the future learning and skills of our students and faculty. Knowledge base changes every 2 years in comparison to what it was earlier. It was every 10 years there was a change in knowledge base, but today it is not the case. The impact of the pandemic. All of us thought it would last for a month or so, and we just thought it was an extended summer break. Unfortunately, it's moved on for so many more months, and thankfully to technology, we were able to keep our children going and their learning going. Learning at school and home must become seamless, which means it should be a continuation process and vice versa. There should not be a break between home and school. Let's look at a simple definition of what is educational technology. Scott Adams says it is the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. We will further understand this as we move on. What was the need for educational technology? It did not just come right now. As far as 1993, there was this particular person who made a big difference, Dr. Yashpal. He was a renowned physicist, academician and higher education reformer. In 1993, the Yashpal Committee was set up for reforms in education and specifically to reduce overburdening of school children, doing away with entrance at the PP level. Homework was to be avoided for primary and improving teacher training and using educational technology. Because of this project that they worked on called Learning Without Burden, hence there was a revision of the National Curriculum Framework which is now exhibited in the NEP 2020. So let's understand what is the objective of educational technology, and I will be quoting the National Education Policy, page 339. It says it is the appropriate integration of technology in all levels of education to support teacher preparation and development, to improve teaching, learning and evaluation processes, enhance educational access to disadvantaged groups, and streamline educational planning, administration and management. Learning in the present day has a few terms and terminologies which is good for all of us as parents also to know. The first one being self-paced learning. Self-paced learning is nothing but asynchronous learning wherein the child watches a video when and however he feels like. It could be the videos that are shared by the teachers, the links, and the child can watch it in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, or the next day. So that's called self-paced learning. This kind of learning enhances responsibility on the child because the child has to make a decision, makes a choice to watch the video. There is self-discipline and there is oozing confidence in the child. The second one being digital tools. Here we are talking about the technological skills, the tools that the children are using enhances their technological skills. The information that they receive, what information to take, how much to take, then the evaluation process that happens online, the choices that they make to be safe online. The third one is the flipped classroom strategy. Whatever we are doing right now, the blended learning is nothing but a flipped classroom, because the classroom, just like a coin, has got flipped. In this kind of learning, a lot of room for creativity, innovation, and critical thinking comes out. Group discussions, as we all know as adults in our companies, they help us a lot because you get better ideas, you learn to respect another person, you learn to oppose a view through respect, which is very important in today's world. And there's a lot of problem solving. These are all key 21st century skills where without our knowledge, they're getting embedded into the child. Because to teach problem solving as such is not easy. You need to embed it into the curriculum. And that's what is happening very subtly when you use technology in education. The different strategies that we use, there's multiple intelligence. We take care of the different kinds of intelligences that people have. There's differentiated instruction because everybody learns in a different manner. And there's a lot of active learning. Active learning is when it is student-centric. Moving on, let's look at a few terms again and just understand the ways in which we can imbibe this kind of learning. The first one being synchronous learning. Synchronous learning is a single point of time that a teacher connects with the child. Here you're engaging instantly with people. It could be through audio conferencing, web or video conferencing, where you share presentations, or it could be through instant messaging, taking the help of chat. Second one is asynchronous learning. This could be done using the website links. Asynchronous learning is when a child is shared certain links and the child can watch at his or her own convenience and own time. Here you need some kind of self-motivation and you need to check on whether the children are logging in or not. So the strategies that you could use are website links, social media like blogs, WhatsApp, Twitter, and you can also use emails. You can message for low complex concerns. Continuing with the synchronous learning, there's also surveys and polls to get clarification. There's streaming audios and videos. The concepts or process teaching happens during that time. And there's a lot of discussion boards for the children to clarify their doubts. One-to-one learning is where the teacher interacts with one or two students during the week or maybe during once in a fortnight. This could happen 15 to 20 minutes every week. It doesn't have to be only academic. It could be co-curricular or it could be any other reason. And that is the reason why we introduced Shining Stars Connecting the Dots on Saturdays. There is a lot of debate on screen time. And here I'd like to give you facts of what is productive screen time, what is unproductive screen time. Productive screen time is when there's cognitive development, when there's synchronous learning, when the child is interacting and there's engagement, just not blindly watching something like the unproductive screen time where it is aimless activities. Asynchronous learning, if it goes beyond a certain period of time, probably if it moves on for more than 1 hour or so, it can lead to unproductive screen time and just blindly browsing. This again becomes unproductive screen time. So we have to understand that is why the Ministry of Education set their guidelines for PP, that is for the pre-primary, not beyond 30 minutes on alternate days. Grades 1 to 5 is about 30 to 45 minutes for 2 sessions per day, and grade 6 and above, they gave us about 30 to 45 minutes for 4 sessions per day. So it's very important for us to be realistic and understand what is productive screen time and what is unproductive screen time. So let's look at what comprises blended learning. It's a beautiful combination. It's a mixture. It's a mixture of a timetable class. It uses technology. There are simulations and group activities. There's face-to-face online learning activities. And the teacher needs to get this blend very perfectly, and that is what we are doing with our teachers, wherein we had a training of 1 month on blended learning for them. And now there we have introduced the mentorship program, wherein mentors are able to look at the teacher's lesson plans and able to guide them and correct them wherever they are going wrong. And that is the beauty of blended learning, because a lot can be done in a short span of time, wherein we can have more room for co-curricular activities, vocational skills, as the demands of the NEP 2020 are going to come into effect next year. One is preparing for blended learning. We need to keep certain factors in mind. One is how will you use the physical space versus the online space. So you have to plan and you have to create the content. You need to be able to provide feedback. There has to be some amount of flexibility, some amount of structure. After all, when we have differentiated instruction and multiple intelligence, some amount of flexibility is needed. Class participation versus attendance is very important because it is just not being in the class, it is how you're engaging in the class. And it is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous sessions. So just to reiterate, a blend consists of student activities, teacher-student communication, there's teaching activities, there's assessments, and the most important is the resources and how you use those resources. And this is the beautiful combination of the blend. Another very important feature is understanding how blended learning falls in line with the different stages of learning as given by Benjamin Bloom. So the different stages of learning that we have are remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So if you look at how blended learning can be used, before class the child remembers and tries to understand whatever is the reading material or the video that is given to the child. During the class, that is during the synchronous sessions, the child is applying and analyzing whatever he has remembered and understood. And after the class, when the assessment or the assignment is given, he evaluates and he creates something new out of whatever he has learned. So let's look at the features of a flipped classroom. Like I said, that is what is blended learning. You have synchronous and you have asynchronous sessions. In the synchronous sessions, that is the one-on-one, there are discussions, there's debates, there's clarifications, and there's problem solving with the teacher using the tools like I mentioned earlier. In the asynchronous sessions, what happens is the child watches the video and understands the concept. And when the asynchronous comes, the discussion, debates, and clarification will happen based on whatever they have understood of the concept. So what is the role of a student? What is the role of a teacher in this blended learning? Like I said earlier, it's a partnership. Both of them take responsibility for learning. The teacher guides, gives feedback, prepares the video, and supports the child. Whereas the student does the group work, practices, watches videos, engages in discussions, and individual and peer learning. Let's look at how the tools are used when we look at all the technological tools that we have. When you look at video conferencing, it can be used for problem solving, for question and answer, for on-site explanation, and for debates and for discussions. The second tool that we can use is discussion boards. This can be used for critical thinking, to brainstorm, for theory into practice, for converting theory into practice, for debates and for discussions. There is a lot of hue and cry about social media, and definitely as parents, we may not be very happy about our children using too much of it. But just like technology, just like how a mobile phone can be used for good and for bad, how the laptop can be used for good or for bad, just like that, I believe social media can be used for good and for bad. It depends on how we as teachers and parents guide our children. They are just little saplings, and all they need is the right nurturing and the right amount of water to grow into beautiful plants. So let's look at a positive way of looking at social media, how it can help learning. Children can reflect, they can analyze. In Twitter, you can look at a beautiful problem solving through the thread that is used. And blogs and journals can be used for a lot of reflective writing. You need to get children into the habit of reflection, which we have in our lessons, because then they will know what are the errors that they have made, or where did they do very well, and how can they continue that. That is most important for us to sit back and to think about our actions, and that is what we need to teach our children. So social media can be something very positive to look at. Mind mapping is a crucial tool, very effective, very influential, very easy to understand, and gives a clear flow of your thought process. And when children use mind mapping, they can use it for brainstorming, they can use it for a flow chart to understand the working of a problem or how a concept works. They can use it for cause and effect, and they can use to define a process. So mind mapping is another very important tool which we must encourage. So finally, let us look at how the blended learning class flows. The first is the learning outcomes and timelines are shared. What is it that is expected from this lesson? What are we going to learn? That is the most important. The second is you will have the asynchronous and synchronous sessions where the concept is explained, doubts are cleared, there's group or individual sessions are conducted. The third is the study review where you check for understanding. The fourth one becomes the advanced activities, assessments and remediation. And the fifth is the end of the lesson. Just like for everything to be successful, there is responsibility from everybody. And here is what students can do, which is all mentioned in our VKGI distance learning policy. Students need to stay motivated, and we as parents and teachers only can help them. They need to design a time management schedule for themselves. They need to read and write regularly. They need to communicate their concerns and their success stories. They need to develop a willingness to learn independently. They need to develop technical skills. Stay ethical with digital tools, this is very crucial, and stay safe online. Further details are there in the distance learning policy. This is just a snapshot. We have always believed in one thing, that for a student to be successful, the school, the parents and the students need to work together. So when we talk about the school, it is definitely the teachers and also the board of management. We need to be in sync. Yes, we may not see eye to eye all the time, but somewhere we need to reach one common decision for the benefit of the children. And having 3,000 people on board, it is not easy. There are different views, there are different thoughts. But what can parents do to encourage this kind of learning, which is definitely the future? You can communicate with the teacher through email. You can set a schedule for students at home. Help them in having a plan for the day and how their day should go, just like how a school day would have been. Provide the basic tools for online learning. Allow students to work in open spaces which can be monitored by parents. This is always better instead of putting them secluded in a room, because then it is very difficult to monitor the children. Spend some time with students daily to understand their challenges and help them out with a solution wherever you can. Otherwise, please reach out to the school. Ensure students read and write regularly and complete their assignments. Like I said, a timetable has to be drawn up to help them get into this regular practice. Ensure a healthy diet and exercise are part of the students' routine. I think this way definitely we'll be able to support our children, and our children can manage learning through the pandemic. With this, I'd like to tell you that this is also there in the VKGI distance learning policy, how a typical day will look. So if you have not visited the website, please go through it. It is there in EduCube also. Please go through the distance learning policy. And I'd like to end with this slide, parents, you decide your future. Yes, definitely we are deciding the future for our children in the way we conduct the classes, in the way we manage with the school, in the way we work together. So let's do it for our children. And I hope you have enjoyed this session. It was just to educate you so that you are in sync with what the school is doing and what is going to be the future, looking at the vision of the PM of our country and what the NEP has in mind. So we are working on the NEP, a team is working on it as to how we can implement this at NCFE, and we are definitely going to welcome it because it is for the benefit of the children, and we are going to really strive to make the NEP a success. With this, if you have any doubts, you can write to ku@vijaykiran.co.in. Thank you very much for your time and patience.